help you register, and if I get this wrong, help me here, but for like a GSA number?
Okay, for a GSA contract.
Yeah, and you know, they said, listen, it's a bear for you to try and do this yourself, you know, but you know, we'll go. Is that a legitimate?
Excellent question. The federal government buys many different ways. The way I said at FedBiz Ops, that's how they do a lot of the buying. Some buying is done off what's called the GSA schedule. The GSA is the General Services Administration, and they're the buying arm of the federal government. What they do is they have businesses sign up for what's a GSA schedule, which is really like a menu. So if you sign up for that and get on the GSA schedule, you're on this menu. So people sitting at a federal agency, instead of putting out a bid and going through the negotiations, they can just take you off of the menu because you have already negotiated the prices and things like that. So it's very quick and easy once you get on a GSA schedule. And certain things are purchased by the federal government off of GSA schedules. So if your business is one of those, that may be a good idea. Having said that, the SBA, we run a seminar once a month on how to get on the GSA schedule for free. If you're interested in the GSA schedule, you would want to take that class. It's at the Tim O'Neill building where my office is, right next to the Boston Garden. And they're correct that it is somewhat complicated. It's thick. It's about this thick. And but we have an instruction that goes over it line by line by line, so you can really get a good understanding of how to get on the GSA schedule. And the beauty of the schedule is once you get on it, it's a non-funded contract. So you have a contract, but there's no money there. Once you get on the schedule, you know, people can you know, order from you, and it just makes it quick and easy.
So David, if I go to your website, there will be a link that'll tell me when you're doing the seminar?
You know what, if you give me a call, because what it is, we do it through another office that we work with, the PTAC office, and maybe I should talk about that. There's an office called the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, or PTAC, because we're the government, we use acronyms. And that's a free service to help you do business with the federal government. And they have counselors who will come out to your business and help you. And the PTAC actually is the instructor. So if you go to, if you Google Mass PTAC, PTAC, you'll come to their website and it'll be listed there rather than on the SBA website. But you can always call me if you want to know the date if you can't find that out.
And that's Mass PTAC.org?
Yeah.
.org? PTAC.
That's right, that's PTAC, PTAC.org. They help you with federal, state, and local contracts too. What they have is they have a bid matching program that you can look on FedBiz Ops on your own and look for contracts that you may be interested in. They have if you visit and meet with a PTAC counselor, they can set you up with a bid matching program that you tell them the codes that you work under, and anything that comes out, federal, state, or local, will be sent to your computer. So that saves you that searching every morning to see what the federal government's putting out. It gets sent automatically, and that's all for free. And it's through the PTAC office, PTAC. The information is in this booklet that made it to some of the tables anyway, or I'm not sure if enough.
49.
Page 49.
Page 49.
Thank you. It tells all about the PTAC, and there's a lot of information in here. And in 10 minutes, I really couldn't talk about everything in procurement either. Yes, ma'am.
This question, is it okay? This question is for Beverly and for Doug. So I understand that some bids for some interesting local business can be found in local newspapers when they arise for the city of Marlboro. But are there other ways for people to be aware of ongoing needs for products and services? For example, do you have a website with current or ongoing needs for local products and services?
At the city's website on the procurement office, I do list mostly all 30B supplies and services bids that are out there. DPW's projects are on their website. CDA puts, they have some on their website, and the mayor and I have talked about a goal of perhaps having everything in one location on the city's website so that people can just go to the one section. There is a section of my website that's been under construction that I'm working with IT to get activated where you can register to be on a bidders list. Right now, I have like a manual folder, and people over the years drop off business cards, send me letters, and I go in there, and then when I go out to bid for a certain thing, I go in and I skim through there, and sometimes they're 2 and 3 old, but if I can get to those same people, we do try to use that. And recently with public facilities, we issued a lot of small tradesmen's bids for under the 25,000 threshold that Tim spoke of, so that electrical, plumbers, flooring, HVAC people could get the smaller projects and be on a list of on-call. So we did that recently to try to activate some more smaller businesses.
Was that for facilities or DPW?
Public facilities did that. There's a lot of small tradesmen.
Great.
And Doug's has a Hulse Doctor section that's for architects, engineers, and some of that electrical type pre-certified list from the state.
Great. Additional questions? Yes.
Hi, I have just a quick question for David. On the SAM.gov, SAM stands for?
System for Award Management.
Thank you.
Yes.
And on the FedBiz Ops, I'm assuming it's as in opportunities?
That's right.
OPPS, not OPS.
It's OPPS, that's right, yeah.
Thank you.
Another thing I'll say about SAM is, you need a DUNS number. I'm not sure if you know that I had that, it's a Dun and Bradstreet number. There's a link on SAM to get to the DUNS number. But when you go there, they'll try to sell you all kinds of things. It's free, just so you know that. It's all free. So don't buy, well, you can buy the services if you want, but you certainly don't have to.
Additional questions? I have one over here and then two
This is
over
for
here.
Barbara. This may sound like a plant based on what you just said, but I want to make sure that it's 2 or 3 years ago, Governor Patrick was here. Remember? I'm a service-disabled veteran and I own a small business. I asked the governor if there were set-asides in the program for purchasing for companies like mine. And he had one of his aides take my name and said, we'll be back to you. Do I understand now that there is a set-aside? So you're getting back to me now from what the governor said was going to happen, right?
Yes, on the government's behalf. He actually passed an executive order, I believe it was July 1st.
As of July.
It could have been a little earlier, but we've just been trying to figure out, because when they pass executive orders and talk about set-asides and talk about benchmarking for certain types of business, it's got to be done through the procurement or purchasing system. That's the only way you're going to be able to get money. So then our office has to kind of figure out how to implement it.
And David mentioned in the government program, there's a 3% set aside for disabled.
Yes, the services, if you're a service-disabled veteran,
Right.
you should really look at the federal side.
Is there a percentage set aside you know of for the new Commonwealth of Massachusetts program?
They just launched the website yesterday. That's why, when I was walking. I'm really embarrassed to
Thank
say
you for
that. I
getting-
should know the answer to that,
Thank you
but
for
we
getting
had
back.
one.
Thank the governor for getting back to me.
Nobody can quote what happens in Marlboro stays in Marlboro. Yeah, me in trouble.
Additional questions? Yes.
So, just quickly, with regard to state contracts, I've heard, we're an IT service provider, but there are a couple of contracts, and the numbers sort of slipped my mind as to what the specific numbers were. But I was under the impression that I can't bid on any state work until I'm on that contract, and that contract's only open to be, sounds a little like a GSA schedule, where we have to submit capabilities to the contract, be accepted as a vendor for the state, and that only happens every few years. Is that, do I have that right or wrong, or?
It depends on the contract. IT changes quite frequently. So basically in the IT world, what we'll do is we will go out to bid. A lot of time those IT contracts, when they go out to bid, we'll actually ask for the vendor's advice. We'll put the bid out there and say for vendor review or something we're asking for.
But for me to bid on that at all, do I have to be on a pre-selected list, like a GSA schedule for the Fed?
I think you're talking about one specific contract, and we do have one IT contract that we've selected the vendors, but the vendors have to bid every time people want to buy off the contract, and there's one contract like that. But if you have questions on our IT contracts, you can call Marge McGevitt or Tim Kennedy, and they can help you. Tim's the director of IT, Marge is the the contract manager for the IT contracts
Okay.
at our office. They can help you. They know them more in depth than I do.
Additional questions? Yes, over here, and then we'll get back to this.
David, I actually do work for the Mass DOT currently. I'm subcontracted. What would be the best way for me to go and cut the middleman and go directly to them?
Okay, the Mass DOT, that's under the, there's a certification for that. So you can get certified by the Mass DOT. The federal government has or everybody has a lot of different certifications, and it gets very confusing, but the Mass DOT has a certification because they get dollars from the Federal Highway Administration. So that's what that question is. Yes. Yes.
Would any of the other panelists like to chime in on that?
I have some information with you if you want for the Mass DOT, the different categories of certification, and like there's an online application.
Oh, great, thank you.
Great, thank you. Additional questions?
Lucy Servillo, Casio Environmental Engineering. We're a women-owned engineering firm, and I'd say about 90% of our work is private and some institutional. And 5 years ago, when we became WBE, we thought, okay, we're WBE, we're going to get all this work, and we started looking into the system. But people kept saying, you still need those relationships. You still need those relationships. And this sounds like it's purely objective. You put your name on a list, somebody picks you out of that list. But is it really like that? Like, or do you have to go to organizations and mingle so that they know who you are? Or is it really like, what is that je ne sais quoi, that special thing that gets you picked? Is it low bid? Is it money out? Maybe you can just give us some insight on, is it really just you put your name on a list and you're lucky enough to get picked?
On the city side, there's the quote process and then there's the bid process. We also can use certain GSA schedules to pick contractors from those lists as well if we're not going out for a formal bid for like a big project. Recently, I think our E911 type of system was done off of the GSA contract. We also use OSD. There's times where the departments will come to me and say, I'm purchasing off of this contract. And a lot of times it's IT services. It's tradesmen, it's different things that are listed there. And when they go to that list, part of my job is when I get the purchase records, I look to see that they follow the guidelines that the state sets. Sometimes the states, under each of their individual contracts, has different guidelines. And it may say to us, a municipality wishing to contract off of this contract must find 3 people and then get them 3 to quote. So even though they've done the bid process, they still make us go through a quote process off of their process to find there. And if you're there and you're a local business, that helps the departments in the city of Marlborough to know that then they can call you and actually, get a quote from you. So it does help you be on the list of the state contract from my perspective when they want to look for like locality response time service contracts that can speak enough to them. You need someone on call to be there within an hour or 2.
I can talk to you certification. So you're certified through our office as a women-owned business enterprise?
Yes.
Okay, so what that does for you, it's actually a tool, it's a marketing tool to help your business grow. And basically what happens in the Commonwealth is if a prime contractor is awarded one of our bids, they, as part of their bid requirement, they have to enter into a relationship with somebody who's a minority or woman-owned business enterprise, or what's new now is a service-disabled veteran, which just came out yesterday. It honestly did come out yesterday. And so for you, what I would really encourage you to do is, in the training booklet, we have a class on the Supplier Diversity Program. It's a 3-hour class. We really teach you how to use your certification to market your business. The other thing, anybody else that has a certification, like my NWBE or even the veteran certification, I don't know a lot about that, but I'm throwing it in here. There are a lot of large corporations in the Commonwealth and national that actually use those certifications. For example, American Express has a huge supplier diversity program. National Grid, they just did a huge event out in Waltham last week. Deloitte's doing one coming up soon. Grazers has one. So a lot of the larger companies have supplier diversity programs. And so I would encourage you to look at the bigger vendors to see if they do. And then see how you can market yourself to those bigger companies. But National Grid has a really, they actually flew people in from corporate headquarters at this event last week. It was amazing the people they brought there and how much they believed in their program. Not that I'm supposed to market any one vendor or not, it just I happened to be there as part of the event.
So it's just what your advice is to keep, just keep plugging away. Just put your name on every list, make sure you've done all that, and eventually something.
And go out and meet people. It's actually funny, last weekend, if I can just tell a real success story. About 3 years ago, I was at the Route 128 Business Executives doing something like this at lunch, and I met a woman named Doreen Blades. Well, Doreen sells, she has a little bucket that she carries with her everywhere, and it's environmentally friendly, not road salt, but whatever it is, but it's, you know, it melts, it's ice melt.
Yeah.
It's environmentally friendly. I saw her at that event. She has a 500, I think it's $500,000, I'm not sure the exact amount, but it's like big money with MassDOT that she got. So she went through, she got certified as an MWBE. She called our EPP director and said, I've got this great product, can you add it on? They did, and she's just fine, and everywhere I go, I see her carrying the bucket. But she's doing great, and she goes everywhere, and she puts herself out there. She's in LinkedIn all the time. You always get a Twitter feed from her doing something, but she's just put yourself out there, you'll get it. It just takes a lot of work.
As a
It's not
follow-up to Lucy's question, could Barbara or Beverly speak to what a responsible bidder is, and how is that necessarily looked at in terms of not necessarily the lowest bidder, but the most responsible?
Oh, well,
Anyone on bid?
Well, to win a bid, you have to be responsive and responsible. And it's not really more responsible than the other person doing it, are or you aren't. What they look for with the government is not always the lowest price. Many times it's the best value. And that would be something by you going to different industry events and finding out and talking to government people and finding out, you know, what they're working on, what they're looking at, what's important to them. You put things like that in. With the federal government, we have a women's self-certification program because now there are women set-asides. So there's nothing guaranteed, but we know a woman-owned business is going to win. We have a program called the 8A program, which is the socially and economically disadvantaged. It's mostly minorities, but it's anybody that can show they've been discriminated against. And in your field or personally, if you feel you've been discriminated against, you can get into the program. It's a 9-year business development program. The beauty of the program is you get sole source contracts. And that is, if you're out there bidding, you know what a sole source contract is. And it can be a great way to grow your business. But there are designated minorities: Black, Hispanic, Asian American, Native American, and Portuguese. And anybody that can show they've been discriminated against. So we have white women in the program. We have white males in the program. Women, you know, there have been women in the construction field, roofer, electricians. We've had women in the softer fields in marketing and things.
Additional questions? Yes.
Yeah, kind of the segue off of this. Subject material expertise seems to be something in the IT field that you mentioned, that it's sort of a rolling process. And I was wondering if these bid processes are moving into the space like the granting processes, where you have peer review of the information and the level of expertise and value that your bidders are putting forward that will be going in to the decision-making process in your offices at the local level.
For a state contract, when we go out to bid, we actually bring in people that use the contract. So for an IT, we would look throughout state government, including municipalities and schools. And so people who have a vested interest in purchasing from those contracts, And usually in the IT world, it's your pretty higher up IT folks that are going to be using the contract. They actually come in and help us evaluate our bid. Like I said before, we do one thing we do now is we put the bid out for the vendors to review and comment on us. The other thing is sometimes in the IT world too, we will put out what we call a request for information, so we can find out what the best is in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how we go about looking for experts when we go out to bid.
On the must-attend bidding meetings, is it possible to have a virtual presence with either Skype or a conference call, or is that actual physical presence?
I am not aware of them doing Skype. They might allow people to call in, but I'm not privy to that. But I'm not really sure right now. I think people physically have to come.
Okay.
In the city, I don't use mandatory bid for pre-conference or meetings. I always just put strongly encouraged for attendance, and then I usually give an opportunity for someone, if they can't make the bidders conference that we're doing, to make an appointment with that department to go see the project at a later date. I don't say mandatory because I would never want a low bidder to be put out of the acceptance of the bid because they didn't attend something that was mandatory when they can get the information at an alternate time. And as far as the questions that are raised at a pre-bidders conference, any questions, they're down, they're made in the list. We put responses, and then I issue it in what's called an addenda. You know, that goes out as part of the bid. So if you ask me a question, everybody knows what question you asked. If 5 people ask the same question, the question's there 5 times, and the answer will say C number, so that you can see that that was a question that several people found that they wanted to ask. So we do answer all questions, and they go back to all people on record as having the bid package.
Additional questions? Yes?
Piggyback on that, is our owner's reps acceptable to attend those conferences and just required in person? The contract of the owner's rep, say an architect representing the owner.
As far as ours go, anyone that would be working on the person putting the bid in.
As long as you're contracting owner's rep.
Exactly, it's just strongly encouraged, right? And to be responsible and responsive when you ask that question, responsive for the city side is you have to meet all the requirements of the submission and what you're supposed to submit with the bid. Responsible would be when we call your references, that you've actually completed your work on time, you know, that you do have enough manpower, that you do all of the things that would get our services in place, and that you're not going to leave us high and dry in the middle of a contract that you get awarded. An example of I've gone as high as a low bid, the 3rd highest, because the first one took an exception to something and wouldn't agree to our term. The second one couldn't get bonded, so I had to go to the 3rd low bidder, and each time there's an increase in the price that we're paying.
Additional questions?
Yeah, my question is also about the responsible bidding process. Do you also take into consideration like the EPP, environmentally preferred products, or sustainability, or green supply chain factors?
On the city side?
Yeah.
That's a state requirement. The city side, we do have a Green Marlboro program that they're implementing, that we're doing it on, like vehicle purchases and things, but we don't have any set rules that we have to follow all of those. We implement them as we can.
Do you have that, is that on your website?
No, it would be part of the bid specs if it's going to be required. It depends on the department and what they're putting out when I help them coordinate their bid specs.
Great.
And on the state side, the environmental, what they're looking for would be right in the bid.
It would be in the specs too.
Spec.
We're getting close to need to wrap this up, so any final and last questions? I want to give everyone an opportunity. I'm going to ask the panel to hang back, and if there's anyone in the audience who wants to have one-on-one conversations, that's available. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to take this moment to introduce someone who's been very helpful to me over my couple of years here at Marlborough. He's a gentleman from Myrick O'Connell who's always willing to lend his time and his experience, and he's been invaluable to me in terms of helping me navigate the city of Marlborough. So with that being said, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce David McKay.
Hi folks. Well, first I wanted to thank our panel and thank each of you for being here. This has been a great event.
I don't know the first thing about government contracting, so it's, I know it's getting late. I get the sense that you have a lot of bids to work on, some websites to visit, and probably some phone calls to make. So I just want to thank each of the members of our panel. Thank you for coming and spending your time with us. I'm guessing you had other places to be than Marlboro at 7 o'clock this morning. So we appreciate you coming out and sharing all of that great information with us. There are handouts on the tables that have a lot of the information in terms of websites and phone numbers and contact information. So I encourage you to look at that. I also want to thank Tim Cummings and Sue Lieber, who put this event together. Tim obviously is at the Marlboro Economic Development Corporation. Sue is our president and CEO of the Marlboro Chamber. This was a joint event put on by these two fine organizations, and the important point from that is that we want to help you succeed here in Marlboro and beyond Marlboro. So if there's anything that we can do, either at the MEDC level or at the Chamber, to help you in that regard, please don't hesitate to reach out to Tim, to Sue, to me. I know the members of the panel sure sounds like they have an open door policy as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. We really do want to help you succeed here in Marlboro. So Sue will also, one last note, Sue will be sending out an email. I think we got everyone's email address when you registered for the program. So we'll be sending you out an email with the contact information from our panel members as well as our contact information. So again, thank you very much for coming this morning, and we appreciate it. Thanks so much.